Hello and welcome to this ET Now special. I'm Nayantara Rai. Our guest today is someone who gets tech. We're going to be discussing everything about tech from the government's perspective and what the central government is doing about it. Our guest is the MoS, Mr. Rajeev Chandrashekhar. Thank you so much for giving us time. Lots to talk about. So let's start with the one that's occupying all the global headlines.
Okay.
It's the mass layoffs that we're seeing in big tech, from Meta, maybe now Amazon, 10,000 jobs globally. Back home, we've seen India's pride, the startups, having to announce mass layoffs. What do you make of this?
No, I think I would be reluctant to qualify or categorize what our startups are going through with what these big tech companies in the US are doing. I think they're not the same. It is true that the momentum that startups had over the last few years has in some sense slowed, and it is less to do with themselves or the areas that they occupy in terms of their idea or the innovation, and more to do with the fact that there is clearly a sense of risk aversion in the world today in terms of all things private equity, private capital, and so on and so forth. So therefore, a lot of startups that depend on growth capital to continue their growth momentum, because these are, as you know, startups are not profitable.
Or give their money to Google and Facebook to onboard customers.
Yeah, so whatever, I mean, or the data centers and the clouds and so on and so forth. So I think that is a different kind of a problem, and I see that problem sorting itself out as the Russia-Ukraine issue becomes clearer. The global uncertainty on the back of all these high hydrocarbon prices, the fear of recession, the US interest rates, all of this complex thing that is playing out in front of us, that is being a little bit of a dampener on global growth post-COVID, is affecting the startup ecosystem as well. What is happening in big tech in the US is a very different phenomenon.
Of course, I meant it's a global phenomenon.
Yeah, and I think what Meta has done, and I like you and I, like anybody else, I've only seen what's on public domain. They made some bad bets. They've invested in certain technologies. It's not the first time that big companies get it wrong. The history of technology is full of big companies who were big at one point and then became very small, and then vanished because they made the wrong bets. So I think that is a process of churn that is almost a normal now in the technology space. You're seeing what happened to FTX in crypto. You're seeing what happened to people who made bets on these new technologies like metaverse. So I don't see that as being anything but, in a sense, the new normal for companies that are big, dominate a particular space, and then suddenly make the wrong bets or find that the ground beneath their what they thought they were right assumptions shifting, and that will play out the way it will play out. I was just looking at market caps. Apple at one point was $2.2 trillion in market cap, and Meta, Google, Amazon, all of them combined were about 4 trillion. And today, funnily enough, the manufacturing company Apple is 2.4 trillion, and all of these four companies are combined less than 2 trillion. So it tells you where technology is headed. At one time, social media and those platforms commanded wealth and commanded the market capitalization and investor interest. And people are now moving into other areas and understanding what is substance and what is not.
But this much is clear that if you have Indian startups, for whatever reason, global, as well as maybe their own business decisions, pressures from VCs, whatever it could be, we've seen layoffs of crossing almost 80,000 in recent times in the startup space in India.
I haven't seen any data.
There is no space for the government to have a view.
No, it'll be difficult. What is the view that the government?
That's what I'm asking.
And I don't think so. I think if there is a up cycle and a down cycle of a company, for the government to intervene in the down cycle.
That also shows the government's maturity, right?
No, I don't know if it's maturity. I think, frankly, the government has no role. I mean, we, even in the technology space and the ecosystem as it exists today, our role is really about being a policy enabler. We don't build the startups. It is private capital meeting private youngsters, building companies that succeed or that they fail. We, under the Prime Minister, have made sure that we have created enabling environment where it is easy for a young Indian to build out his or her dream get capital from whichever source he or she can get, and build his or her dreams.
Then don't you
Some dreams will go bust. That is the very nature of startups. Some dreams will
it's
go
very
bust.
risky.
Yeah, of course.
Now, this was also government that wanted to enable the first law in the world for the gig economy. It was promised by the finance minister in her budget speech on 1st of February 2022. We're still awaiting that, but isn't that the time for that now more than ever?
Look, again, I think that question has to be better posed to
the Labour
Ministry.
Minister.
I can only speak to what legislation.
Because you bring a very interesting intersection of private and public.
No, not that way. I mean, I think today I speak to you as a minister in the Council of Ministers, and I can answer questions that pertain to my responsibility, and it will not be fit for me to comment on what another ministry's timeline is or their perspective is on of a particular law or legislation. The commitment has been made in the budget, as you said, and I think they must be working on it. And if they are working on it, I am not privy to the status of that. That is how governments do work. But I do believe that for those who see the happenings of the last 4 months as some sort of a signal or a symptom of what the future will be, they are completely misreading it. I think the future of tech, the future of digitization is only going to intensify. The churn among startups, the churn amongst big tech is nowhere representative of the durability and sustainability of the digital economy, global digital economy. If anything, I'll stick my neck out and say that the digital economy will only surprise us on the upside. The size, the scale, yes, what we believed was digital economy 3 years ago or 4 years ago, what we believe were the innovation in startup ecosystem opportunities 3 years ago, 4 years ago, may not be exactly the same 2 years down the road. There is a shifting of opportunities, there is a diversification of opportunities, there is an expansion of opportunities. And I think really that the digital economy globally, and indeed the innovation ecosystem globally, is going to continue to show great signs of expansion and success. And it will not be the same old stories that we thought were the stories. I think there is in technology, the history has a way of quickly consigning to footnotes people who thought that they were permanent entities in the landscape. Yeah.
So we have to see that churn also take place. But where the government has certainly been validated, and if you look at the crypto world, what's happening with the FTX and at the end of it, the recent moves also that may have been made for the TDS on cryptos, does the government stand validated?
Yeah, but I think you asked me sometime back in a post-budget meeting, and I said very clearly that this government will never put any road bumps on innovation. But the government is very clear that you have to follow the law. You have to understand there are rules and laws that govern foreign exchange, for example, in this country. So just because you're an innovator in crypto doesn't mean you can start a crypto exchange and start buying Bitcoin or buying any other coin by violating RBI guidelines on how you can create foreign denominated assets. There is an LRS, limited remittance scheme. You have to go to the RBI to buy dollars. Those dollars have to then in turn be deployed to buy crypto. So those are the issues that we emphasize. And I'm glad that the Prime Minister took note of this, reacted as he did, and the government did what they did, because there was a lot of criticism that the government was anti-innovation. But it spared a lot of Indians a lot of grief, because of those decisions, a lot of Indians exited what was otherwise a very volatile and absolutely chaotic marketplace for crypto that was at the heart of it going to leave a lot of people very, very damaged. And as you saw the FTX meltdown, a lot of very, very, very people unconnected with the controversies of crypto have lost money. And the report that I read recently says over $1 trillion have been lost in the crypto market, $1.5 trillion almost in the meltdown of the crypto market. So,
do you have any idea of how much of that would be by Indians living in India?
No, I have no idea.
We don't. No government seems to have that.
No. But a large part of these losses were US based.
US based, yes.
I do think that many Indians, in violation of FEMA and laws, have invested in crypto, and many of them exited because of all the strict clarity that came up during budget 2021 and 22. And those who remain invested in, I don't know who they are, but they
Good luck to them.
Well, I don't know what good luck, but they are reaping the consequences of what they sowed.
Absolutely. So, there is always, before any parliament session, there used to be a lot of chatter. Will we see the crypto bill? Will we see the crypto bill? I think this time, can we safely say there will be no crypto bill?
No, look, I've always maintained that I don't know what the need for the crypto bill was about. I mean, there was a lot of people saying there should be a crypto bill, and I kept saying, look, under FEMA and under the liberalized remittance scheme of the RBI, there was no ban to lawfully buy crypto coins. Any Indian today, even today, if you still haven't seen the light of the day and haven't seen common sense, you can still go to the RBI, get your LRS of $250,000 a year and go and buy whichever coin you fancy. But it's not a very smart idea, but there is a lawful way of doing it. So I have never really quite understood what the crypto bill was about. I have always stressed there is no prohibition on innovating around the blockchain. There is no prohibition, there is no hurdle, no road bump in startups doing work on Web 3.0, and that you should not keep mixing up and believing that restrictions, foreign exchange restrictions on crypto
is anti-Web3.
Is some way putting a brake on Web3 and blockchain. It's not.
Okay, so we'll have to see how, because we've also seen state governments, for example, use blockchain for medical records, and we've seen all of that taking place.
We have a clear national strategy of blockchain. We believe that there is a lot of benefits on blockchain, but the blockchain also represents certain regulatory challenges on how do you regulate decentralized distributed ledger types of information. We'll see.
The other aspect I wanted to talk to you about, and this one, you seem to have held a lot of meetings on it, and a lot is being said, which is about online gaming. In fact, just before this interview started, the CBDT chairperson has said in a press conference that the new budget, union budget, should take care of any tax evasion in online gaming. We hear different things from state governments, different things from within the wings of the central government.
There's really nothing to be speculating about. The government of India, the ministry, has had number of rounds of consultation on this. We have met not just gaming companies, we've met gamers. We have understood and learned so much about the toxicity and issues related to women gamers. And we believe that there will be a framework that will be evolved that will create a safe and trusted gaming environment in India, which is not gambling. But since this was an interministerial consultation, there was a lot of secretaries of a lot of departments of the government of India that sat down and worked on it. That process is just entering into its last lap.
Okay.
And you will, in my opinion, very shortly see the government come out and tell you what the framework of that online gaming ecosystem will be.
Will this be before parliament session? Or?
We'll see. I mean, we tend to not want to work to timelines like parliament session. We would rather create the framework, have extensive consultations on the framework, make sure all the stakeholders are onboarded and like what we are doing before we announce anything to the as a law or as a rule or indeed as a guideline.
So it's not going to be self-regulation. There was a lot of chatter in the middle that we may see self-regulation.
Look, I want to explain that there seems to be a misunderstanding in people when they say self-regulation. Self-regulation is not no regulation. There's a tendency to delude yourself, especially in the industry, to say self-regulation means I will be the judge and jury about whether I am right.
And I will make the rules.
And I'll make the rules. That's not right. Self-regulation means it is not government owned or it's not government initiated. It could have industry representatives, it could be a self-regulatory organization. However, the test that an SRO has is that it has to be accountable for anything that goes wrong in that industry or in that ecosystem. So accountability is as important an expectation from self-regulatory organizations as anything else is. So I have put the ball in the court of the industry and said, look, if you can come up with, architect and design a self-regulatory organization that meets the test that government, it must be transparent, it must include consumers as a stakeholder, it must have industry, and it must be transparent in terms of how it does and what rules it makes, and it must be accountable. So the ball is in their court. Let them come back. We are open. The government is very open. The government has absolutely enough on its plate. As I said, even during the IT rules, it is not our business to sit down and adjudicate dispute between gamers and gaming companies or consumers and intermediaries. Ideally, the industry should be mature enough to have a system of making sure there are no complaints and grievances, or have a self-regulatory organization that meets the test of transparency.
When you say framework, what do you mean? Are you going to finally describe what is game of chance, what is game of skill?
100%. 100%. The basic tenet of that will be that gambling, that is games of chance, will not be permitted. That is very clear.
But different states have different views. Now, for example, Tamil Nadu says that Rummy is no longer a game of skill.
No. I don't think it's a question of people deciding what is a game of chance and game of skill. There will be guidelines that will automatically permit a regulatory organization, institution, or an SRO to say this is a game of chance and this is a game of skill. That is the approach that we have. That is that there will be some method of filtering out game of chance, game of skill, and there will be guidelines that will therefore define what is a game of chance and what is a game of skill.
The tax department, sources of the tax department tell us, and we've done a story on this as well, they're very keen that there should be KYC of gamers.
No, I agree. Anybody who today uses the financial or the fintech ecosystem must have KYC. That's as simple as that. So therefore, if you are going to use a game of skill and there is some sort of membership fee that is being charged there for your login, let's say it's online chess, and you are being asked 500 rupees to be a member of an online gaming platform, you must have a KYC. It's clear.
So then this is beyond gaming. This is for use of the internet, for anything to do to buy or sell.
I think either you missed the discourse that's going on in the background, but this anonymity versus first originator of illegality is a debate that has played itself out, and we have already said in May 2021, even before I became minister, the government's view on this is very clear. Anonymity gives you the ability to participate on the internet and freely express your opinion or conduct yourself as long as you do not violate any laws and rules.
Right.
The moment you trespass into criminality and user harm, then the platform has an obligation to divulge your identity and your
and of the first originator.
Exactly. Exactly right. So that issue is already addressed. The additional layer on this is that when payments are being made online, there have been considerable number of cases where crypto exchanges, for example, have completely given KYCs the go by, and then allowed all kinds of people, including some wallets, have done that. And there are some cases that the ED has pursued about wallets being created without KYC. So that becomes, whether you like it, wittingly, unwittingly, you become a participant as an intermediary to money laundering. So therefore, KYC is very important, that when there is a financial transaction online, it is clear that the financial transaction originates from a recognized individual, known individual. And therefore, in the event there is an illegality or there is something that eventually comes up, it is identifiable as originating from a particular person. And that's why KYC is very important.
In fact, Mr. Nandan Nilekani was supposed to do, right, that one KYC which will be across the board, across all of the financial institutions. We're of course all waiting for that one. Mr. Chandrashekhar, if you would permit me to ask you this question, because it's been a hot topic. It's not happening now, but when Elon Musk announced that there's going to be $8 for the verification, did the Council of Ministers discuss it? Like what? It's not happening now, but what would have happened?
Look, if somebody today, if Amazon decides that they want to increase the price of a particular product offering to something, or Flipkart decides to do something, I don't think that is the job of the Council of Ministers of the Government of India to go into pricing strategies. That is why I have repeatedly said that our rule making, our policy making, our regulatory framework or oversight is around three broad conditions. Openness of the internet, that means there should be choice. Nobody should distort the power of free choice to a consumer, whether you're a big platform or small platform. Safety and trust, That means nobody should hoodwink a consumer, and therefore safety and trust are both attributes. And accountability, that if you do something wrong, or the consumer or the citizen is a digital aggregate is not happy with it, he has the ability to ask you the question as a platform, and the platform is obliged to answer. So if these conditions are met, now in the middle of that mix, if somebody raises it, the price of a product offering by $8 or reduces it by $10, that's his call. And as I understood it, from reading his tweets, which is now...
He came up with a clarification later that, for the public personalities and...
Yeah, exactly. That he was not banning, he was not making the free Twitter thing go away.
Yeah.
So that would have been something that we would have taken note of and said...
That's why I was asking till that clarification came out.
If any platform tries to exclude people...
That you have a problem.
Then obviously we'll have a conversation about that.
I saw a very interesting tweet by you today, which was in response to New York Times putting out the news about Google being fined nearly $300 million, where you have talked about the personal data protection bill. So when is it coming?
Soon.
What, this session?
No, soon. Look, again, this government will not enact bills that are designed for the next 10 years without going through real diligence, real consultation with a lot of people, as wide an audience as possible. So bills are created for the impact it makes on our ecosystem, protecting our citizens, protecting our businesses over the long term. So if you ask me, is it going to meet some artificial timeline of X day on December or Y day?
No, but the consultative process.
The consultation process will start very soon. It will start very soon. It will be an exhaustive consultation process. I think it will last 30 to 45 days at the very minimum. It will include consumers, it will include business, it will include startups, it will include academia, it will include the legal community. We will speak to everybody about it, show them our architecture, show them our thinking, and get their views on board before we take it to cabinet and parliament.
This is also a government that in the past has tried, and once again through new amended rules to get the social media platforms, the intermediaries, to address grievances. Is it now better?
Look, I hope it is, because I am getting less emails from consumers who are upset about platforms. And number one. Number two, and to be fair, we've had very good meetings with the intermediaries where I've said, look, we are not adversaries in this. We are really partners. The government, the citizens, the digital aggregates and platforms are all, in a sense, interested stakeholders in a safe and trusted internet. It benefits everybody. There is nobody who is disadvantaged by a non-toxic internet, a safe and trusted internet, an open internet, an accountable internet. Why would anybody be at odds with that? So I think we are working more as a partnership. I think it is less adversarial now between the platforms and us. I have taken great effort in explaining what the logic and objective was. The GAC, the Grievance Appellate Committee, was something that was portrayed as an overreach by the government, and I've repeated to them my offer that I made 3 months ago, and I waited for 3 months for their response, which did not come, and therefore I had to go ahead, which is that if you have an SRO, self-regulatory mechanism that addresses the issue of appeals, we are more than happy to include that in the rules. I made that offer 4 months ago, waited for 3 months, nothing happened. And I continue to, even today, tell them, look, if you can come to a consensus, which is the industry,
better,
we'll be happy to do it. Because that's not something that we want to spend a lot of time doing, addressing appeals.
So the government is also very clear that the intermediary cannot be held liable for the content that is posted as long as it cooperates with the first originator principle, right?
No. The new rules say that under 3(1)(b), there are 9 classes of content that,
including child pornography,
all of that, they have an obligation to remove. And if they are for some reason unable to remove, then when pointed those out by somebody, they have to remove it in 72 hours. The basic principle of the rules, Nayantara, is the following. If you want Section 79 protection as a safe harbor,
then you have to
have some obligations in moderating your content on these 9 issues, which all basically are...
Is it possible to moderate, sir?
Well, we'll see. I mean, we have to... Look, I approach it this way. For the internet to be safe and trusted, and which is an absolute must because 1.2 billion Indians are going to use the internet. Men, women, children, elderly, they are all going to use the internet. The internet has to be a safe and trusted place. We cannot have anything but a safe and trusted internet and an accountable internet. If we have to have that, the platforms have to be partners in that effort to make the internet a less unsafe place and a less untrustworthy place. So they have to do their work. They have to develop tools, they have to develop mechanisms, they have to develop SOPs, they have to develop filters, content moderation policies to do what they have to do.
It's a long Herculean task ahead of us.
Oh, well, I don't think it's a Herculean task. I think it's an obligation on their part, if they're responsible businesses, to make sure that their consumers enjoy their product, enjoy their innovation without having to worry about being doxxed, gaslighted, child pornography being thrown at them, misinformation, religious hatred, content being thrown at them. It is as much as a right of a digital Nagrik to a safe and trusted internet as it is for any intermediary to do business on the internet.
So let's hope for that. We still haven't talked about the overall of the IT Act, the Cyber Security Act. Mr. Chandrashekhar will do that another time.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you so much.